Hello, and thank you for joining me on another YouTube adventure of the No Zone. I am your host, Gutzler Man, and today I am in beautiful, historical downtown St. Charles, Missouri. And I am right next to the Missouri River and the first capital of Missouri. This is beautiful. The first capital of Missouri. You can see the billboard sign back there behind me. Let me just tell you a little bit about what this says. On August 10th, 1821, Missouri became the 24th state of the United States. And just to kind of sum up in layman terms, basically, this is the home, St. Charles, historical downtown of the first capital of Missouri. It is really awesome when I saw this for the first time. And this is not really, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this, but it says right here that, let's see, temporary capital on Peck Row. It served a temporary first capital of Missouri for just over 5 years, from 1821 to 1826. That is pretty cool. I like that. I mean, that's historical. So I'm here with my coffee. By the way, this is Mobile on the Run gas station coffee, but they're not sponsoring this video. It's just where I got coffee this morning. So in just a little bit, I'm going to take you to the actual first capital of Missouri, and you can see that firsthand with me. The first capital from 1821 to 1826. This is amazing. Let me back up here to where you can see this building. Now it's not, you know, it's just like any other historical building, I think, as far as the construction. It's brick construction, but the fact that this used to be the first capital for 5 years. The current capital of today is in Jefferson City, Missouri, but just to think that this. Now, a little interesting thing about Peck, I forgot his first name, but they owned the building. And after they moved out and it became just a building, they started renting out the rooms. The state of Missouri actually started renting out the rooms. And eventually in, I think it was 1961 or something, please, it's either 61 or 64, they bought the building and they restored it and opened it up. Like, this is just an amazing spot, I believe. Wow, that's just going to be hard to top. Like, that's so amazing that capital was the first capital of Missouri for 5 years. That's just amazing. To me, I love history. I love to read about history and find out about history, and to me that's just amazing. And I wanted to get this view in here for today's Bible reading. The Missouri River is behind me, and there's a barge behind there, and I hear something off to my right like a steamboat or something coming up this way. But it's beautiful scenery. I love coming here. The Missouri River, to me, it's just amazing. So I just wanted to throw that in there about the first capital of Missouri. But today's lesson is Ephesians 4:32, and it's on forgiveness. So let me start by saying that there's all sorts of stuff that can cause us to have, I don't know, pride, if you will, especially on the highway driving. Those of you that can drive, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Other ways that we can form unforgiveness towards somebody is family matters, arguments with friends or family or just strangers, to be exact. And that's hard for me sometimes too. It really is. I have to actually stop and gather myself and think about maybe that person that I'm angry at, or I'm starting to harden my heart and not have forgiveness toward, they might be going through something too. Like, I don't know their situation, unless it's a, it might be a family member, a close family member. I might actually know what they're going through, but I still have that hardened heart. But God calls us to forgive the way He's forgiven us. And we're going to go to Ephesians 4:32 right in here. And it says, be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you. And I'll read that one more time slowly, more slowly than what I just did, in hopes that, it can sink in. It says, be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgive one another, as God Christ forgiven you. And I believe that falls back on love. And I've done videos on love before, but let's break this down. Be kind to one another and tender-hearted, forgiving one another. Well, what does it take to forgive one another? What does it take for me to be tender-hearted and be kind? When someone's constantly at me, when someone's constantly throwing slanders at me, or just doing what it takes to make sure that I have a bad day. And I've been around those people that go out of their way to make sure I have a bad day. But I'm called to forgive them and be tender-hearted. Well, where do I start with that? That's start with thinking about this. Why did God give His only begotten Son to die for us, so that we may have a choice? Well, that's because He loved us so much that He did that. With this thing called love, I have so much hate for everything on this person. Well, how do I get that love? Let's go back to 1 Corinthians 13:13. And I've done this before. I've made videos on this before, but it ties in with this. I believe the only way you can forgive someone is to remember about the love that Christ had to us whenever He forgave us. And that'll start dissolving. Now, I know it's not going to happen instantaneously. Sometimes it will, but sometimes it takes some time. But we always start with the why and how, and that is love. And 1 Corinthians 13:13 says, so now faith, hope, and love abide, like it lasts forever. These three, but the greatest of these is love. Even this says it. Even above faith, even above hope, is love. Well, what is love? So we're going to go right back up to 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4. And that says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. And one of those all things is forgiveness. Now, I sit here and I talk about this, and I know that it's a lot easier said than done. I've been in situations before where I know, I stop and I regain my composure, and I, start rationally thinking about things. But then the anger of what's going on at that time is much more, and I'm like, well, I don't want to forgive them. I have the choice, right? I have the choice. I'm faced with an option here, two options actually. One is to forgive them, and the other is to keep being upset and angry. It takes time. I know, like I said, it's easier said than done. It takes time, but it'll happen. It'll happen. Everybody goes through those periods where they don't think that they could ever get to that level of forgiveness. Like I said, some is quick. May not be overnight, but it might be a couple weeks, and some might be a couple years. You just got to give it time. Wow, I just had a coughing fit, so excuse me. But anyway, I'm going to try to wrap this up. It's been long enough. I just wanted to talk about forgiveness because that's something that I know that I struggle with. Like I said, especially driving on the highway. But thank you so much for taking your time to listen to me. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to hear more. Sorry. But until next time, love yourself, love your neighbor, and most of all, love God. Until next time.